Hey, it's Erin. No one likes dieting, myself included. So I wanted to do a quick video on how to stay lean year round. And I'm gonna give you 15 quick tips that you can use starting today. They're gonna be 5 lifestyle tips, 5 training tips, and 5 diet or food related tips. So without further ado, let's just dive right in. Okay, we're gonna start with lifestyle. And the first, it really has to do with mindset. I want you to think about not dieting. Don't think in terms of foods being off limits or thinking in terms of scarcity. It's really important in maintaining balance just to not think in terms of scarcity. So, number 1 tip, do not diet. Tip number 2, sleep. Sleep is going to be really important. This is going to help reduce cortisol. It's going to improve recovery. It's also great for metabolism, great for hormone production. So you want to make sure that you are getting good quality sleep, practicing good sleep hygiene. So making sure you're unplugging, turning your overhead lights off, making sure you're getting bright light first thing in the morning. Really, really important to just work on improving your sleep and sleep quality. Number 3, stress. We want to limit the amount of stress. Now keep in mind that stress itself is not inherently bad. So we can have acute stressors, totally fine. We're talking about chronic stress. So this is the situation and how you perceive it. So you can have a situation and have 2 people experience the same situation. One person can be totally fine. One person just freaks out and has a meltdown. So your reaction to situations is really important. So try to limit or eliminate stressors, chronic stressors from your life if possible. If you can't get rid of that stress, change your perspective on it. Really, really important that you manage your chronic stress. I like to call the next one the 85-15 rule. So things like holidays or treats here and there, you don't want to deny yourself or deprive yourself of these really fun occasions. So let's say it's your birthday and you are watching your weight, which goes back to number 1, don't diet, but thinking in terms of scarcity and depriving yourself and not allowing yourself to have a slice of your favorite cake on your birthday or to not do Christmas dinner or to just eat salad is just a recipe for disaster later on. So do good most of the time, make healthy choices, understand that food is fuel and that you are nourishing your body. Food is not necessarily a reward. So, tweak that mindset just a little bit. Have the cake or have the beautiful dinner when you're traveling or celebrate your birthday. These occasions only come up every, once, even if it's like once every few weeks or even once a week. Allowing yourself just to have that little treat is going to go a long way in just having that balance and having that really healthy relationship with food. Now, the last tip is having a good balance between pushing yourself, training really hard, and then knowing when to rest too. This is super important because a lot of times if we're thinking about getting lean and staying lean, you think, oh, I have to be in the gym 6 days per week. I have to be crushing it, doing cardio all the time. This is not the case. A lot of times the harder you push, the more you're overreaching, which can lead to overtraining, which leads to increased stress, decreased quality of sleep. So you want to make sure that you know how hard to push yourself, but you know how to rest too, because that's when you're going to make the most gains in your training and muscle maintenance is outside of the gym when you're actually getting that rest. So having that really good training to rest balance is important. And keep in mind that this can change throughout the year too. So I know for me in the summertime, I can typically train harder. I sleep better. And I think it has to do with just the days being longer and it being warmer outside. In the wintertime, I tend to struggle a bit and can't typically train as hard. I don't tend to recover as well. So really being in tune with your body and understanding that during different seasons, and of course as a woman, different times in your period or your menstrual cycle can have a lot to do with how hard you push yourself and how you're able to recover. So really work on that. Let's start with diet, or let's get into diet. Now, protein, 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 super, super important. And this is the building block of muscle. It's going to help improve or boost your metabolism. It's going to give you those feelings of satiety and muscle maintenance and muscle building. So, one thing to think about as we get older, we can experience what's called metabolic resistance. So you may want to just increase your protein intake, especially at that first meal in the morning and your last meal before you go to bed. So really think about pulsing it throughout the day too. I'm not saying just have a big bolus at breakfast and then don't have protein throughout the day. You absolutely want to have protein throughout the day because it's the one macronutrient that our body just can't store. So just keep that in mind. We can store carbs, we can store fats, but we can't store those really essential amino acids, which are great for muscle maintenance, muscle building, and it's just the building block of all of the cells. So think about increasing your protein intake. Think about fiber too. Fiber is going to lead to feelings of satiety. So if you're able to just get some more veggies in your diet, get some more soluble, insoluble fiber, this is going to help with just improving feelings of satiety. It's going to help you eat less overall without really thinking about it. And number 3 goes hand in hand with the first two, water intake. You want to make sure you're getting enough water throughout the day. And if you're consuming caffeine, yes, caffeine is a diuretic, but it doesn't have, I know the old rule was if you consume a cup of coffee, you want to consume 2 cups of water. That's not necessarily the case, but you do want to do the pee test, if you will. So when you go to the bathroom, you want to make sure that your urine is almost clear, so light yellow. You don't want it to be a dark color. And you also want to make sure you're drinking before you get thirsty. So if you are hungry, make sure you get something to drink before you eat. This can help with improving feelings of satiety too. And a lot of times if our tummies are growling, that can be just thirst versus hunger. So make sure you're getting enough water in. Number 4, you want to think about timing your macronutrients. So this is going to sound complicated, but it's really not. Your carbs, great for energy. You want to think about consuming more carbs around the times when you're most active. So if you have a really active day, or if you're working out, in the middle of the day, for example, breakfast and your post-workout meal are going to be the highest in carbs. And you can typically get away with eating quite a bit more post-workout. You can experiment with this. And in the off season, I really love to just go get a big tray of sushi and some frozen yogurt and kind of see how my body reacts. So that post-workout meal, you typically can take in more carbs, more energy, and just think about timing your carb intake around the times when you're most active. And you can think about your carbs and your fats on a sliding scale. So you always want to have protein as the center of your meals. And then as you're a little bit more sedentary, let's say later on, maybe you'll increase your fats, you'll decrease the carbs. As you get close to your workouts, your fats are going to decrease and your carbs are going to increase. So just think about that. Super, super easy. And then lastly, number 5, think about doing time-restricted feeding. Now, this is a form of intermittent fasting, and now there have been studies showing that intermittent fasting can lead to muscle loss over time. So you want to make sure that when you're doing time-restricted feeding, that your eating window is about 12 hours. So let's say 7 in the morning to 7 at night. So it's going to give you the benefits of curtailing that food intake a little bit earlier in the evening, but you're not shortening that eating window so much that your body is going catabolic. So the time restricted feeding, I really love. I do the 12-hour window, which is totally doable. And you want to think about just having that last meal 2 to 3 hours before bed, and this is going to help lower your resting heart rate overnight. It's going to improve your sleep quality, and it's going to improve your heart rate variability and just really help with recovery. So experiment with that a little bit. You don't want to go to bed where your stomach is growling. You're not going to sleep too well. but you do want to go to bed with a partially empty stomach so that you do sleep better. So consider doing time restricted feeding, but not having a minuscule eating window of like 4 to 6 hours. Think about 10 to 12 hours where you can get your food in and still sleep really well. All right, training, my favorite topic. Actually, it's hard to pick a favorite, but I do love the training. So number one, think about compound movements first and foremost. And I love to use arm day as an example because, a lot of people will go in, they're going to be doing their biceps curls, they're going to be doing their kickbacks, and you're burning like no calories. And keep in mind too that training, it's really hard to, actually it's impossible to out-train a bad diet. So if you think you're going to go into the gym and you're really going to crush it with supersets and you're going to do some crazy training to try to burn more calories than you're taking in and your calories are just out of control, it is not going to happen. But you can maintain a healthy weight by just adding in more compound movements. So for example, on your arm day, you might do a close grip bench, you might do a chin up, for example, and really focus on biceps. So think about things like dips, your inverted rows. Think about adding in more compound movements, and compound movements are just multi-joint movements. So instead of just doing biceps curls, for example, you're going to get the back involved. So you've got a couple of joints moving versus just sitting there and doing those curls. Next, add in HIIT, or high intensity, low impact training, or HIIT, however you say it, high intensity, low impact training 1 to 2 times per week. So this is going to help tremendously with burning calories. It's going to help you build muscle, and you can boost your metabolism for 24 to 48 hours after each HIIT or high intensity, low impact training session. Now the high intensity, low impact training is what I love to do because you're limiting the eccentric force on your legs and you're able to add in more volume and recover much faster. So for example, HIIT might involve true sprinting. So you might go out, you might sprint. The chance of injury here is pretty high. The eccentric force as you're coming down on each leg is tremendously high. So, you have a lot of muscle damage going on there. So instead of sprinting or running on a treadmill, you may do something like a sled, or you might do something like stairs. You're still getting your heart rate up to 220 minus your age times 0.8. So you want to get to 80% of your maximum heart rate. And this is going to go a long way to helping you stay lean once or twice a week. That is it. And I would start with once per week, and I might do 3 sets of 20 seconds all out and really work up from there. So it doesn't have to be anything crazy. You don't have to hit the track. You can get on a spin bike or an elliptical, something that is going to cause less wear and tear, but still get that heart rate up. That is what you're shooting for, because we want sustained leanness and we want to be able to train for a really long time. Next, number 3, walking. Very, very easy. Get yourself a Fitbit, or you can have your phone with you. I try to get 10 to 15,000 steps in per day. And it's really not difficult to do if you work at it just a little bit. So if you have an office job, think about sitting for 45 to 50 minutes, spending 5 to 10 minutes just walking around, parking a bit further, taking the stairs, going for a morning walk or an evening walk. In fact, you can do a 5 or 10 minute walk after each meal, and the steps are really going to add up, and you're going to really help to regulate your blood sugar levels too when you do that. So get more steps in. Really, really important. This is not cardio. This is just moving around and getting those steps in. Number 4, lift heavy. Lift heavy. I cannot put enough emphasis on this. And I'm not saying go and squat heavy or go and bench press heavy. No, pick your exercises where you feel safe and confident and you can lift heavy, and stick to that. I would say 8 to 20 rep range. So you're not going below 8 reps. You're not trying to max out on your deadlift. We can do goblet squats. We can do landmine deadlifts. We can do hip thrusts. We can do exercises that are inherently safe, to protect yourself from injury. You're not going to go, crazy on trying to max out on hang cleans or, anything like that. But choose your exercises, your compound movements, and lift heavy. This is going to go a long way with boosting that metabolism, with building muscle or maintaining muscle. And it's going to help keep you young, because you're working on those fast twitch muscles, especially if you're in that 8 to 10 rep range. And the fast twitch muscles are larger muscle fibers than the slow twitch muscles, and they're just beautiful when they're developed. So you have that nice round bubbly appearance. It's going to increase your proprioception, so you're going to have increased foot speed. Again, this is really, really great as far as anti-aging also. All right, last tip for training: time your recovery. Now, if you're lifting heavy, you're going to want to take 2 to 3 minutes in between those heavy lifts. Totally fine. But what you don't want to do is you don't want to get into the gym and take 10 to 15 minutes or, start getting on social media or, just not really paying attention. And I think that's, a lot of times when people go into the gym and they're like, oh, my workout's taking me 2 hours. And if you look at their workout, they're taking 5-10 minutes in between these heavy lifts and, just not keeping their heart rate up. And then with your isolation movement, so if you're doing, some lateral raises, for example, or you're finishing up with some face pulls, or on the abductor machine, for example, or you're doing glute kickbacks, you can really take 30 seconds, maybe up to a minute in between each set on those, isolation movements or those pump movements. So time your recovery. It's going to help you save time overall. It's going to keep your heart rate up, help you burn more calories, and, just keep you on track. So what are your tips for staying lean year round? Is there anything that you absolutely swear by? Let me know in the comments below. Let me know if there's another topic that you want me to cover. As always, thank you for watching. If you've made it this far, you are amazing. I love you. And I hope you have a great rest of your week. Hope your training is going well. That's it for this time. Until next time, train hard, y'all.